Hangout is live, so we're going to wait a couple minutes and see if we can get the people on. It always takes a minute or two to get people to come onto those things. Yes, I do have a phone here.
You should probably turn that down.
Yeah. Actually, that is, honestly, I don't know how to turn it down because it goes to my desktop.
Oh.
My phone goes to my desktop. Oops. My phone is on mute. Okay. Well, we still have no viewers, and I know Mindy is downstairs. She should be watching. You can see it?
Yeah. Can't hear you.
So you can hear me, Julie, right?
Yes.
Okay. Mindy can't hear me. I hope that's... Okay, so let me go over a little bit here with people. I believe we have question and answer is available this time. That should be at the top corner of your live interactive webcast that you should be able to have a Q&A. You'll see that. Yeah, you'll see that, and you should be able to ask questions. Okay, you know what, Mindy? I've got to take a second because I can hear Mindy in the other room listening to me. Okay. Everybody can see and hear me loud and clear. That's what I'm getting. I'm also getting text messages. So if you can't, the question and answer is active. You should be able to ask questions during this thing. There is also a chat. I see Julie in the chat, and I am there as well. So, and then also feel free to go to, if for some reason you're unable to find that, feel free to text me, which I have already been getting some texts. 213-479-9603 is my text number. That's 213-479-9603. So we have a couple people on. Do you want to go ahead and get started? And we will, hopefully a few other people will come on along the way, and we'll get going with this. Julie, go ahead.
Well, we're excited to have Andy back in the United States after his production trip to Jerusalem. And some of you were able to join us last time. We were actually talking to him in Jerusalem, and that was really exciting. Today, we're going to talk about his production and what went on while he was there, but we also have a couple of exciting things. We're going to do a t-shirt giveaway in a few minutes. And what we're going to do is anyone who submits a question, I will put your name into a bag. There's 3 colors of t-shirts. And if you win the t-shirt, you can pick which color you would like. What we'll do is if you ask a question, I'm going to write your name down onto a piece of paper and put it in a lovely bag I have here. And at the very end, I will pull out a name, and whoever I pull out will be able to win a t-shirt, and you can pick which color you would like. So start thinking about your questions that you would like to ask Andy. I have a couple of them that I've put together just to prompt some conversation and to hear a little bit more about his production. And then we'll open it up for you all to join in with your questions. Andy, my first question for you is, what's your lasting impression of Jerusalem now that you've been back for a week or so?
Well, lasting impression. I think I still continue to think about some of those first impressions I had, because the first impressions was overwhelming to see you know, so many layers of history and life and humanity on top of each other. And as I stayed there and got to know it a little bit better, I think halfway through I started to feel like I was kind of getting a grasp on a little bit of it, but my lasting impression was as I left more confused than I began. So I still am just reeling from the fact that you have thousands of years of history, but yet you have a city that is still very much a modern, vibrant city. And how do you put all of those layers together? In my mind, that's still kind of a lasting impression that I'm working through.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, it's interesting you say that, because it makes you realize, for me, reading some of the things that you sent me in emails, and then the conversation we had last week while you were still there. You know, we all live with the impact of history on our lives. But for those of us in America particularly, we don't have it up in our face every day, even though we are still impacted by it. But being in a place like Jerusalem, where you actually live on top of history, I can't really imagine what that is like and how that impacts your life in a daily way for the people who live there right now. So I am excited to see more of the footage that you have got. And I think we have a little bit of a teaser tonight to show people.
Yes, we do have a little bit of a teaser. It's something I was able to put together that I think should give you an idea of a little bit of what I'm talking about, those layers of history and yet life and alive right there. I'll get that rolling, and hopefully everybody gets a chance to see it. And we'll talk more right afterwards.
أشهد أن محمدا رسول Like Christian, we have Monday, we have Friday, our Jummah. Believing in God is inside you, not to go to church or something. My opinion, you know.
Why is it important for the Jews?
Here is a very special place.
Well, Andy, I know seeing that footage kind of gives me the chills. It's so cool. It's so cool that you got to be there and just experience all of that, and to be in that place and get to talk to those people and just ask them questions about their life and what's important to them. You know, one of the things from watching the video that's really impactful to me is just the sights and the sounds of those three religions all happening so close together. I'm wondering, from your experience, did you feel like being there that there was commonality between the people, or what did it feel like there was just more difference between them because of the religious differences?
I think the commonality that surprised me was really between Christians and Muslims. I think from what we hear and what we talk about in the United States, we think that there's more of a division between Christians and Muslims. But in Jerusalem, at least, there seemed to be a commonality because from a political perspective, because they had they were the ones that were there when the Jewish state took over, and they felt like there was this common struggle to find a place and find a space in a land that they aren't exactly citizens of right now. They're internally displaced, or in some cases externally displaced. And so that commonality kind of surprised me. And I really, at least from the people that live there, I noticed that there was less of a commonality than I expected between Christians, Islam, and Judaism, because the visible expression of Judaism was so very different than any of the other two religions that were there. So that kind of surprised me, because I don't think that the majority of the Jewish population is secular, is rather non-religious, and their life takes place outside of the walls of Jerusalem, and inside it's a very conservative and Hasidic Jewish stronghold. And so you notice the differences between the Jewish and Muslim and Christians much more. So that's my observation about that.
I think that's really interesting. I'm surprised by that. I would have thought that there would have been a bigger commonality, I guess, between the Jews and the Christians and the Muslims would be the most different. So that's very interesting to me that that's not the way that it was. What you were just saying about the secular Jews ties into the next question I wanted to ask you, which is, aside from religion and the religious practices that you were observing, which was a lot of your focus, what was your biggest impression of the more secular portion of Jerusalem?
I mean, the more secular portion of Jerusalem is a lot like any other city. I mean, life just kind of, people hanging out, they're on dates, they're going shopping, they're walking around with their family, they're sitting having a picnic at the park, they're going to work, they're going to school. But yet one of the biggest things that I noticed outside of, well, it's both inside and outside of the walls, is just, the military is carrying around their weapons, whether they're on or off duty. And so seeing automatic weapons slung over the shoulder of two people out on a date, and there was not an uncommon sight, and that kind of surprised me. In my travels, it's not that seeing military or that has been uncommon in certain places that I've been, but the casualness of it really shocked me there. And so how you live with that, I guess, and how you see that expression of that outward expression of force, how you see it, I guess, really boils down to which perspective you come from, whether you feel like they're there to protect, or there to are they there for some other reason that might not be so safe for the person that that particular person. So I guess your perspective of whether it's good or a bad thing depends on who you are. And I actually got this question from David Rodriguez, and I'll just go ahead and throw it in since it affects what we're talking about now. It's like, how does what you saw of the history and society affect our country? Well, I think that boils down to some of what we see about what had just recently happened in Baltimore and what happened last year in Ferguson and other cities. Is our police force, your perspective of whether they're there to help or hurt depends on where you come from and what your background is. So, but that's just so much more apparent there because you're in a country that's not very big, in a very populated area with some divisions that go, I think, probably much deeper than the divisions that we have in this country.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great question. And David is now the first entry in our t-shirt giveaway. So congratulations, David. I have one more question for Andy, and then you all begin sending in your questions. If you haven't already sent one to Andy, you can do it in the group chat. You can do it in the question and answer section of the Hangout here, or by text or email, either anyway. And remember, I'll be writing down each person's name who submits a question and putting it in for our t-shirt giveaway we'll do at the end. So get those ready. I've got one more question for you, Andy. Now that you're back, you and I get the fun of editing this project and actually making a video out of it. That is the purpose of what we're doing here. Exactly. That's how I think we feel about it. What are you the most excited about actually putting this thing together? Like, what are you looking forward to putting together and editing the video?
You know, I actually went through, you know, just to get the footage that you guys saw earlier. It took me, most of the time actually took me sorting through everything and putting it into this particular category. So I got to look through a lot of the footage, and I'm actually really excited to start to compile and boil down so many scattered thoughts that I had and observations that I had, and boil it down into something that I think can communicate through the footage that I have. And so that's what's kind of exciting me. You know, just starting to see some of the sequences that I have, I realized that the time that I had there, I really did get below the surface in a way that I think other productions that I've seen haven't, because I didn't have a whole crew that was, you know, hogging attention, was able to concentrate on what I saw in the streets. And number two, I spent enough time there that I didn't just go to the big sites. So I want to pull out that, and I'm looking forward to seeing how I could show that other side of Jerusalem that happens when you just kind of live there for more than just going to a few key sites and then going back to a hotel. And I think, how can I show that? That's what's really exciting to me.
Mm-hmm. Great. Well, you know, I'll actually answer that question, my own question as well, and just say from my perspective, you know, I didn't get to go on the trip with you, but you know, being there every day, we've talked, and I was hearing your impressions and working with you on what we were gathering while you were there. And I'm excited about the style of project that we're doing. And part of it is these online hangouts and involving our audience and involving the people who have funded us through Kickstarter or who are just very interested in what we're doing. And I'm excited about continuing to develop this idea of kind of interactive documentary and engaging people from the ground up. I've done a lot of video work where, you know, we make a video and then we put it out and we hope people like it. And I'm so excited about this style of what we're doing, where we're working with people all the way along, so everybody's a part of it instead of just, here's what it is, we hope you like it at the end. And I think that's really exciting from my perspective as a producer. So those are the questions that I had. We're ready to take everybody else's questions, so I hope you all are ready. Andy, do you already have some there we can get started with?
Yeah, I have a question from Mindy. As a Christian coming from a different place, did you feel welcome? Yes. Well, it's funny because, you know, Jerusalem is a tourist trap. But it's not a tourist trap in the sense like Hollywood Boulevard is. And, you know, people live there and work there, but you know, everybody's like, welcome to Israel, welcome to Jerusalem. So that was your first thing, where, you know, once they realized that you weren't just rushing by, you know, a tourist on your way to the next destination, and you might want to sit down and talk with them or spend 5 minutes, it got serious pretty quick. And there were a few times that, you know, I realized that they wanted to share more to me than welcome, and they wanted to share their opinion about the politics or the religious tension. And initially, like, I was like, wow, why did you go there so fast? But I realized it was a way of feeling welcome when I took a minute to do more than just smile and nod and listen to them. They were very quick to open up. Now, the difference between opening up to me and wanting to go on camera, that was a very different thing. And I actually think that's a point that's going to come through in the documentary. Because I had somebody give me a really good explanation on why people didn't want to talk. And I think that'll be a cool little moment in the documentary so that we can see why we might not see as many faces as I would have liked to have seen initially.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the questions I have. We have a grand total of 3 viewers. So, you know, I know that we put this out at last minute. It wasn't advertised as broadly. So I really appreciate those 3 people for coming through. Do we have any other questions? Anybody else who's on who might have some thoughts, something that you want to hear? While you're doing that, you know, feel free to text me at 213-479-9603. That's 213-479-9603. Or use the question and answer, which 2 of our people have found that. David and Mindy have been answering on the Google Hangout Q&A. Why don't we watch this video? If people are interested, we'll watch this video one more time. Think about your questions, and then we'll do the t-shirt giveaway and wrap it up if there's nothing else. How do you feel about that?
That sounds good.
All right.
أشهد أن محمدا رسول
Like Christian, they have Monday, we have Friday, our Juma.
Believing in God is inside you, not to go to church or something. My opinion, you know.
Why is it important for the Jews?
Here is a very special place.
Okay, I actually have a couple things I'd like to say about that video. It's interesting. The first guy, the Muslim guy, was saying Christians have Monday and we have Friday. I think he was a little confused between his Mondays and Fridays, but it was just a cute little conversation that I just had on the spur of the moment with that guy, which I thought was interesting. I do have a question from Carolyn, and I will get to that in a second because there was one other comment. The Jewish guy at the end is another interesting perspective that you wouldn't expect to hear. Is he actually told me that, you know, he is part of a group that believes that the Jewish state should not exist, and he's a Jew because he believes that only the Messiah should bring the Jewish state back into existence, and because people have done it, that's wrong. And that was very interesting that I found somebody that would actually say that to me, because I had heard that before. And so something that somebody told me is that those those people will actually go and protest along with the Muslims and Christians against actions that the Israeli state is taking. So I find that interesting. So anyway, does the line between religion and politics are they blurred? Yes. The Jewish state, is seen really as a religious state, and it's about a faith. While it's a democracy and it is supposed to be open for all, the people I talk to tend to see that as the voice of the religious faith. But yet on the other side of the line, when I talked about the unexpected idea of the Christians and Muslims being together, they see themselves as Palestinians, and so they want to see a Palestinian state. Although not everybody felt like they needed to have a state, however, but there was this unity. So there is, between the Christians and Muslims and the Jews, there's kind of no distinction between what's a religious issue and a political issue. And I don't really know how to explain it, and I don't feel like even in my little experience that I have, I'm even qualified to figure it out, but that's what it is. Stephanie has a question. Did I find a person who was not religious? Actually, my main interview with a Jewish person was somebody who was not necessarily a religious person. However, they, everybody who live, in the Jewish faith who lives there finds and takes time to respect the traditions of their faith, like the bar mitzvah and going to the wall, and they find that special. That's what this guy said, and I talked to him for over an hour, and I think amongst the secular Jewish people, I think most of those are more willing to say, hey, we need to find a way that we can all live together. It's when the fanatical or more when the more religious aspects come out that you begin to see that there's not as much of a willingness to try to get along with the others. And I wonder if that has an application in our country as well. When it comes to our views of where we live and the land we live in, if we're willing to listen to each other a little bit more and put our religious views aside, and not to say that we shouldn't have our faith and our views, but there's a separation that might help us be able to get along with each other if we keep the two spheres separate. That's an off-the-cuff thought, so for what it's worth.
All right. Are there any other questions that you have there, Andy?
That is, that's all I have right now.
You mentioned one from Carolyn, Carolyn?
Yes.
Did you already answer that one?
Yes, I did.
Okay, sorry, you slipped that in on me. I was probably writing somebody else's name down. I've got her name written down though.
We have Carolyn, Mindy, David, and Stephanie. So we have
awesome.
4 questions. I think your odds are really good here, people.
You're doing very well for the t-shirt drawing. Well, we are very excited that all of you have joined us this evening, and it's great to hear from Andy more about the trip. And we're excited to start putting this project together, he and I both, and seeing how it will play out and how we can tell the story of the time he spent there in a really interesting, hopefully an exciting way. I don't think that we'll answer any deep questions. We're not going to try to solve, peace in the Middle East. But I think we'll be able to present some really interesting thoughts about what's happening there, and that will give hopefully the opening for a conversation. And that's really what our desire is to create opportunities for conversation. in the work that we're doing. Andy and I together and separately have been making videos for a good 20 years now. And we're excited about this project because it's giving us an opportunity to begin working towards something that's been a dream of ours for a long time. And what we're realizing as we're putting this project together is that we want to take some more steps forward to create an even bigger space to have conversation about global issues on a larger scale. And so we're putting these ideas together. We're going to be putting out more information in the future about this. But I wanted to just let you know that we've got some ideas that are cooking about what we'll do with 3, but also what we're going to do beyond when we finish this particular project. If that's something you're interested in and you want to know more about, hopefully you're already on our mailing list. If you are not, you can go to thestoryofThree.net and sign up there for our mailing list, and that will be where we start releasing our ideas and the future things that we're going to be doing first. So hopefully you will join us there. And now I think that we're ready.
Before we do that, I do have one more question that came in while you were talking. Do you feel like Jewish, Christians, or Muslims were more interested in talking? You know what? Everybody was interested in talking, but very few. I think it was easiest to get Christians to talk on camera. The Jewish and Muslims were much more hesitant to speak on camera, but everybody was really willing to talk. And so, you know, I have a lot of that, you know, that's going to play into the conversation that will come from the documentary. So, yeah, that was from Carolyn. So it's not another person. The odds are still the same. So.
Okay. We won't. Do we give her 2 tries for 2 questions though?
Maybe we should.
All right. Well, let's go ahead. I've got everybody's name here in this fabulous Star Wars bag, as you can see. Lego Star Wars. We're very, very official here. Let's see whose name we're going to pull out. I'm not looking. All right. For Stephanie Rodriguez. That's our winner for tonight. So, Stephanie, you can let Andy know what size and what color you would like, and he will send that t-shirt to you post-haste.
Okay. Well, I will get in touch with you, Stephanie. And we will get you the t-shirt out as soon as possible. I did have something from David saying you didn't answer all my questions, but I've answered all the ones that I got, so I must have overlooked one.
Oh, there's a blank here from David. Maybe just send the question again, David, and we can try to, and so Andy can answer it.
Okay. I mean, yeah, as many questions as you want to take. I mean, we set aside an hour for this. You know, when I was in Israel, I think we had over 20 people on. But, you know, we did advertise that one for weeks. And this one was something we did put together in a couple of days. So we actually will also be posting this online so that people can watch it at a later date if they want to, or you could share it. I'll probably edit it down so that some of these gaps will be taken out. Do I have a question yet? Can we see the 3 colors again? That was the question. So I guess because Stephanie wants to know which color. There's a gray one. A red one. And a blue one. My personal favorite is the gray one, but you know what? I think they're all pretty awesome. Okay, another question. Did I find it difficult to leave? After 10 days, I was ready to come home. But I also did find, like, as I left, I felt like I was walking away from something special. There was part of me that was like, oh, I'm really sad to be leaving. So that's one of the, I guess, when you spend so much time and get in a place that's so special to so many people, it is hard to leave and to step away. But I was glad to be home and to be with my wife and to sleep in my own bed. And hopefully someday I'll get to go back and experience it again. And I guess that's it. Any final words, Julie?
No, just a big thank you for everybody who did join us tonight, and we will look forward to sharing our next step in this progress when we have some things started to be put together in our editing process. And make sure that you are on our mailing list, storyof3.net, and join our mailing list there so you will hear first about things that are coming up next.
Yeah, I think we will do some interactions like this. I think at a couple points in the editing process, we would like to get feedback from you, and I think if we can work out some of the technical details of this, we can maybe get some more interaction, because we do want this to be an interactive documentary, and we're going to take whatever steps we can to interact along the way. Peace, love.